So is this UN plan going to work? Alexander Anderson is Kosovo Project Director for the independent think tank, the International Crisis Group. James Bissett is a former Canadian ambassador to Belgrade. He thinks it's too early for Kosovo to get even this limited form of independence.
It's always the demand on Serbia, to give up their cherished part of Kosovo, their Jerusalem, so to speak. First we had, the UN demanding that standards be met before status. Now they're really saying that they'll have status and then apply the standards. But the fact is, over 200,000 non-Albanians have been expelled from their homes in Kosovo. 150 Christian churches have been destroyed and burned. Murder and kidnapping continues in Kosovo. Until the Albanians themselves and the leadership in Kosovo prove to the international community that they're worthy of entering into the humanity of nations, I think that they have to meet certain standards.
So what is the alternative? Is it that the international forces and the international administration just stay there for years and years and years, something that is unacceptable now to most of the countries that have taken part in this?
Well, they'll have to stay there until we see some evidence that rule of law and democratic institutions are beginning to flourish in Kosovo. My own view is that it's going to be extremely difficult to reach that sort of end because the enmity and the suffering that went on both sides, Albanian and Serbs in Kosovo, is unlikely to have these people live happily ever after together.
Alexander Anderson, do you agree with that view? It seems what Ambassador Bissett is saying is that in a way Kosovo has to deserve its independence and it hasn't got to that stage yet.
I just don't think that's very realistic. Of course, Kosovo does not have experience, doesn't have state skills, and indeed the last few years have not been a particularly good example of governance from the Kosovo Albanians. Nevertheless, waiting any longer is not going to make it better. The problem is that if Kosovo is not able to stand up as a state, we're going to lose that investment in the institutions that has been made so far.
The alternative, as you're suggesting, is really the creation of a failed state. There's 70 to 80% unemployment. Their standard of living in Kosovo has dropped to that of Haiti. There's very little investment. There's very little prospects of Kosovo in any way being a viable state as it stands now.
Alexander Anderson, is there not a bigger question here of whether a province within a country should get independence just because its most vocal and most activist people within it really are demanding that?
There are a lot of other factors at play here. Kosovo was at least a federal unit within the former Yugoslavia. It has been subject to a vicious war in which the metropolitan country tried to expel the majority of its population back in 1999. However ambiguous the UN Security Council Resolution 1244, under which Kosovo is governed by the UN at the moment, was, it did at least mandate a political process to determine Kosovo's future status.
James Bissett, what are the alternatives?
The fact of the matter is the United Nations have been in there for almost 8 years and nothing much has improved. And they have not fulfilled the terms of 1244. The KLA is still armed. The Kosovo is an armed camp.
But does that mean then the international community just stays indefinitely?
Well, it may have to. Unless there's some evidence that the Albanians are going to accept the return. It's not only the Serbs have been expelled, it's almost all non-Albanians. What about the Roma, the Jews? Even the Muslim Slavs were expelled from Kosovo. There's been no attempt, really, by the international community to force the Albanian communities in Kosovo to take these people back and to, once again, let them live in peace. It's a shame to think that in this day and age we have ghettos in Europe and we have ghettos in Kosovo, and people who leave them are in danger of either being beaten up or murdered. That's unacceptable, particularly when we've had very high-priced UN people in there for 8 years, and still we see dynamiting of churches, murder, abduction, kidnapping. The Kosovo Albanians control all of the heroin trafficking to Western Europe, most of the arms smuggling and human smuggling. It is a black hole in the heart of Europe.
Ambassador James Bissett and Alexander Anderson of the International Crisis Group.